Have you recently had the same problem? You're giving it everything you could do and you still can't keep up with those aliens out there? Don't worry, because it's me, Jardier, here again on Overtake channel with another Assetto Corsa Competizione tutorial how to practice like a pro. Lately, I feel that practice becomes more and more important. Racers are preparing way better compared to how it was some years ago. That's why your test runs should be as good as possible. As good as possible is a good way to start. Let's say you join a server and somebody is driving 155 on Nürburgring, but every lap you do is 2 or 3 seconds slower. Then I would recommend you to spectate them. But it is just a little harder than watching. You have to take a close look. Most people are just watching and casually watching instead of trying to learn something new from them. If you want to learn even more from watching, make sure to subscribe and ring that bell for Overtake channel so you don't miss any notification with the tutorial from me. But let's go back to the practice. A common thing others could do better than you is the shifting. Especially in the mid-speed corners, the difference in gears can be huge. The fastest guy on the server might be taking them in the second gear while you stay in third. This is not automatically faster at every corner, but could be a factor for specific turns. A good example could be a Les Combs at Spa, where you will find exactly this situation. Some drivers will take this turn in third gear when you should actually take it in a second. Something that is also very good to observe is the lines fast racers take. Remember, you can always be in a better position on the track. Maybe you take too much curb or don't use enough of the racetrack. A good test, if your lines are not good, is to pick one or two corners where you and the fastest person have different lines and try to be more creative there. If it helps you gain a fraction of the time, you may just want to adjust your lines. If you believe it or not, feedback can be extremely helpful for you for your evolution as a sim racer. It can help you extremely in the short term or overall with your practice. So let's check it out. Let's say you have a really hard time to keep your tires until the end of the race. They are always worn down and you struggle for the grip shortly before the end. This, of course, can have a lot of reasons, but that's why it's important to show someone your replay. Maybe it appears obvious to them that you are just too aggressive while overtaking, cornering, braking, which ruins your rubber. Something that can seem small to you, but it can be a big mistake for the others. Of course, there are always different opinions on racing, but I think it's very good to have someone close to you who can give you some tips and information so you can do stuff differently. If you think about it, could you give me a description of your driving style? Probably not, because most what we do happens without you noticing. We don't think about it, but it's important to make us aware how we drive. This is something very common that we do in a self-improvement. Like, we do some things all over and we do them automatically later. But it's good sometimes to take like a step back, you know, look at each other from like a different perspective and learn from that, because that's how you can improve. I had a friend I was helping and he would do the same thing every time. In Imola, he was driving just fine, but one thing was missing. He didn't use the whole racetrack. His lines were either too narrow or not tight enough. This led to him losing a lot of time. When I told him about it, he started watching his own replays from another angle. This ultimately led him to see what I see, and he got a lot better over the following practices. Of course, this also ties you to the feedback you get, but you can also do this feedback yourself. If you look at yourself critically, if you look at some of the bad habits you actually have, you can improve a lot there. Something you want to ask yourself as well is how much should I actually practice? There's definitely no wrong or right there, but let me tell you something from my own experience. Last year, I was desperately trying to learn the McLaren, as I told you in a previous braking tutorial. There was a race coming up and I had some time to practice, so I thought I would really go hard in one day. After like 6 hours of practice, I just couldn't improve. I felt like I was just completely stuck. My mood was terrible as well. It was pointless to practice anymore that day. I went to sleep and the next day I woke up. I did on a second lap my personal best by almost 2:10. Since that day, I value the shorter practice times more highly, because you give your mind time to reset, and it's very, very important in a very hard practice to put your practices in a shorter amount of time in more days if you are able to. Something that is very useful for very high-end esport level of practices, or if you want to really find out what is wrong with you, is the Motec or Telemetry. Telemetry are graphs that show you what parts of your car do at which time. If you look at our third Hero's Journey episode, you can see how it can help beginners and experts. Let's give you a short example from me again. Last year, me and my teammates were practicing for an esport event, and I was not seeing any progress at the Nürburgring. I was constantly slower by 0.2 of a second, and I couldn't do anything about it. So I begged and sent everything over to my colleague who knows a lot about telemetry and stuff around it. He made me aware that I am overheating the tires and getting a lot of heavy understeer in the first sector because I'm using tiny bit of throttle at the same time as I'm braking. I would never thought my so-called rally style, when I'm always on the throttle and brake at the same time, would cause me to lose actually a time. But here it was a massive problem, specifically with the McLaren on the Nürburgring. So I had to relearn everything, and literally in my second run, I improved the time and I matched my teammate's pace, which just mind blew me away. The only downside of the telemetry is you need to learn how to read it. It's a lot of graphs and a lot of information which you need to get through. Would you like to have some tutorial for like telemetry on Overtake channel? Make sure to let me know in the comments, guys, and we can figure it out. Practice is as important as the race itself. If you don't know yourself or the car you are driving, you don't have a chance at being good. It is obvious that you need to drive in order to be better, but stuff like feedback, practice times, and being critical to yourself don't come to mind immediately. Be sure to take a practice seriously. Be critical of yourself, watch the replay properly, maybe ask your friends or communities to give you a proper feedback as well. If you have someone who can read telemetry, well, that's already a win for you. For more racing and esport content, make sure to check Overtake GG. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe under this video. Share the video with your friends and communities as well to help them improve. And I hope to see you guys next time. My name is Jardier, and see you guys on the next Overtake video.